So, I saw Dream Theater at Radio City Music Hall, and I'm finally ready to share my thoughts. Hey, what's up? It's Chris, Redbeard Videos, back with you for another edition of Quick Takes. And I know and I recognize that I've been going a little Dream Theater heavy with my content lately. And since I'm on a schedule of posting once maybe a week or 2 weeks at best, well, 2 weeks at worst, 1 week at best, because I'm just trying to navigate like real life and this content life, and until this grows to a point where it's actually making me bank of any kind, then and you know, I do get the occasional here and there type of thing, but for the most part it's not something I can count on. So until then, it's going to be this pace. It's going to be once a week or once every 2 weeks, or maybe I'll throw 2 or 3 out in a week or 2 or 3 out in 2 weeks, but for the most part this is going to be it. So so I'm doing the best I can, and you can help me with that, by the way. I have a Patreon page. It's Redbeard Videos, and there's other stuff over there, too. It's not just what you see here on the YouTube channel. I keep them separate, actually. For example, I did the listen-through of the newest Coheed and Cambria album just recently. That's the most recent one. And I put an edited version here on the YouTube channel. And then I put a full-blown, unedited, raw, unfiltered, mostly type of version on Patreon. So, and it's $3 a month. It's not a lot. And I'm going to be offering more things there. I also have a series that I started called Old School, which is old interviews from the past, because I've been doing this for, I don't know, since 2008. So in some way, shape, or form, either it be on radio, internet radio, terrestrial radio, satellite radio, YouTube, the whole nine, it'll all be housed over there. Stuff that has kind of gotten lost to the ether, was only like kind of aired once or twice over the air and then kind of just disappeared. So that's where you could find that stuff. Right now, I think there's currently an interview with Tommy Rogers of Between the Buried and Me, and then I think I'm going to have another one with Travis Stever or Stever, I always forget how to say his last name, of Coheed and Cambria. So those are 2 old school interviews you can check out, but there'll be more popping up as the years go, as the weeks go on. Now, my Dream Theater take. And it's not what you think it's going to be about their live show in Radio City, because I'm proud to announce that I have a complaint, and it's not James LaBrie.
That's shocking. That is shocking.
See, let's start with the positive. First and foremost, it's awesome to see Mike Portnoy back. That was super cool. They all seem very happy to me. They all seem very content. The fans were phenomenal. Like the audience at Radio City was so engaged, involved, in love with what was going on. So that was awesome. Portnoy was his regular Portnoy self. That was great. The rest of the band performed as they do. John Mayung was wonderful, had some solo parts, was very loud and present in the mix, which is something I don't normally notice live with Dream Theater. Jordan Rudess was his Jordan Rudess self. I will say that the cringiest moment of the whole night, and remains the cringiest moment of the whole night, even when LaBrie is struggling, is when he comes out with the keytar. I know that Dream Theater fans go wild over this. I don't like it personally, but that's just me, okay? And I think I dislike it mostly because that means we're about to get a prolonged instrumental bit of wankery on the keyboard, which is my least favorite instrument to hear wankery on. So, and that's just a personal preference. People love it. That's great. I'm not smashing Jordan Rudess and or Dream Theater for doing a guitar solo thing. That's great. That's awesome. Do your thing, man. That's great. It's just not my personal preference. That's all. Good news. James LaBrie. I don't know if it was because it was a home show, if it was because it was the last show of the North American tour and that meant he was going to get a long break, which maybe he let it all hang out. Maybe he got some sort of treatment before the show. Maybe he was being extra judicious with his water intake or whatever, because I did notice that every single second that he got a chance to go take a swig off his bottle, whatever he was drinking, water, tea, fucking steroids, I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, it got him through. Some of the things I'd like to note, though, that I saw as big changes from the videos I saw earlier in the tour, especially the European tour, and what I saw at Radio City 2 weeks ago. The first thing was he had very well mapped out alternative routes. Meaning, for example, Under a Glass Moon is a song that he probably, on his best day, on the most vocal rest, in the perfect primo conditions, would still have a tough time singing. Because that's a motherfucker of a song to sing. As someone who is a singer myself and prides myself on my range back in the day especially, I've never been able to sing that song to point, like to pinpoint accuracy. You always just have to kind of cheese dick it on a note here and there because that song is incredibly difficult. So the fact that that was even in this set list set off alarm bells for me right away. And I didn't pre-screen the set list like a lot of people do going to the setlist.fm or whatever the site is. My sons do that, and they did that, and I was like, no, don't tell la 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 la. Like, I didn't want to know. I did not want to know what was coming because I had heard that Dream Theater was changing up their set list quite a lot. So I thought that was pretty cool, and they're usually really good with making set lists, so I really don't have to check into it to be like, oh, am I going to be disappointed by this set list or not? I was not disappointed with the set list, but I'll get to that in a moment. But once I heard the opening chords of Under a Glass Moon, two thoughts hit right away. One, they're only doing the intro, or they're going to do some sort of instrumentally type of thing where they're going to kind of run through the old songs but not sing them, a la what Rush did when they opened their R30 tour, and they did the R30 Suite. When they played all the songs that Geddy was clearly out of Geddy's range these days, Anthem, Bastille Day, and then just ran through them instrumentally, okay? Not the whole songs, obviously. They did, I think, maybe, it was like a 10-minute open, and it was a 10-minute instrumental run through their first 6 albums, essentially, is what it came down to. I thought Dream Theater was going to do something similar, and honestly, that would make sense. I think that would be acceptable to the fan base, too. I think as a fan base, we would be like, okay, I get it. We're protecting James, and that's fine. It kind of alludes to what I had said in my video, my other Quick Takes video, my most recent one anyway, regarding Dream Theater called The James LaBrie Problem. They should be playing to the fact that he is not James LaBrie of 1997. Or 1995, or even 2005, for that matter. He is 2025 James LaBrie, and there's severe limitations on what he can do. But what I will say is that I was proven wrong, because Under a Glass Moon, in my opinion, was a bright spot on the evening. James LaBrie did a masterful job of taking things down, going alternate routes, singing the melodies in a different way so he didn't have to reach for those ultra high notes. And I know a lot of people get bent out of shape about that. I want to hear him do his duh. I want to hear songs that are in tune, okay? I want to hear songs that don't make me go, ugh, that sounded rough. I want to hear songs that don't make me feel bad for the person struggling up on the stage. I like when a singer alters the path of their melody to fit whatever it is that's going on with them night to night, because that's the point of a live show, is it not? The point of a live show is to hear something slightly different. If I wanted to hear Under a Glass Moon pinpoint accuracy, I just put on the CD or the stream or the record or whatever, right? I listen to the studio recording. That's not why I go to a live show. I go to a live show to hear things be slightly different. Because if you're as ardent a music fan as I am sure that when you hear a solid live version of a studio song, that's the preferred version for you going forward. That's with me for sure. Like, I can honestly tell you that 75% of the Kiss catalog I prefer the live cuts of all those songs compared to the studio versions of almost every Kiss song that's ever appeared on a live record. Whether it be actually live or not, that's a different story altogether, especially in the Kiss case. But as far as what we're talking about here, one of the things I praise Freddie Mercury for being such a masterful performer and a monster fucking musician is the fact that, sure, he sang the songs more or less in the ballpark of correct live, but he never had all those notes live. He never did. It's a fact. And why don't we ever crush him for that? Because he's a brilliant musician who learned how to mask that fact by being A, stellar performer, and B, a monster fucking musician who on the fly could work out how to get where he needed to be without it sounding awful or painful. Labrie might not have knew that back in the last several tours, but he appeared to know about it at Radio City. I'm not going to say that he was stellar during this performance. I'm not going to say he was great. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that James Labrie had an adequate performance. It did not take away from anything in this show. So, yay! I'm pleased. I dropped hundreds of dollars on tickets to see this band to get primo seats at Radio City Music Hall. And I am pleased with the 5 individuals that were up on stage performing their parts. They did a wonderful job, 4/5 of them, and the 5th one did an adequate job to the point where I can say I left there and went, that was great. That was great. They did Octavarium in their full, and he sang it more or less perfectly. He took a few alternate routes, but for the most part, there was not one moment where I was like, ugh, that could have been better. I loved the version I heard. It was perfect for me. I was choked up. I nearly came to tears because that's probably my favorite Dream Theater song. And I got to hear it probably for the last time in its entirety. So that was the brightest spot of the entire show. As far as the set list goes, I will say the only criticism I have of the set list is that the first set buried the second set, even though Octavarium was in the second set. That was the only thing, in my opinion, that saved the second set, because I don't know who worked out the pacing of the second set, but it was awful. It was really bad pacing. The first half of the second set was just, until they got to Octavarium, it was really, really... I mean, I went to the bathroom at a point. Honestly, like that was the point that I chose to use the bathroom, because I used the intermission to get merch, because that's one of the things that bothered me. So there's 2 things that bother me about this show, and I will get to that next. But I want to talk about the set for a second. Until we got to Octavarium, which was the last song of the second set, the pacing was awful. Like, it was really bad. Night Terror was okay. Okay, they opened the second set with the new song, which I totally was on board for. It's part of their career. It's what it is. You gotta play the new stuff, right? Even though I'm not in love with Parasomnia, as each day passes and each listen, I get a little less enthralled each time with that album. Not a bad album, it's just not catching me. It's not grabbing me the way older Dream Theater stuff used to. And that's okay. It's what it is, okay? I'm not gonna trash the album. I still think it's an adequate release. I'm just of the mind that maybe it should be their last one. But that's a different story for a different day. Night Terror was the first song of the second set, and that was fine. It was fine. It was a good song. They performed it well. It sounded good, whatever, right? I'm okay with that song. I thought I liked Midnight Messiah, but God, it was drab live. It was not very good live, and I don't know why. I can't really put my finger on what about it was lacking, but it lacked a lot of energy. It was very, very muted or something. I don't really know. Then we go into the train of thought representation in this show, and they did Vacant and Stream of Consciousness back to back. Now, as much as I love Stream of Consciousness as a instrumental piece, in fact, I will go ahead and say that it might be amongst my very favorite. instrumental pieces in their catalog and in general, because I'm not an instrumental guy. For a person that's such a huge Dream Theater fan as I am, I don't like instrumental music. So that might explain why the newer albums bug me more than the albums prior, because it's obvious that James LaBrie is struggling, and it's obvious that they have to write to that. And so maybe the vocal melodies just aren't there the way they used to be, but the technicality is obviously still there, and the musical technicality and their breakdowns and the way that they do their musical sections and their instrumental sections, still very prominent, still very impressive. Hard to argue with that, right? And with that, Stream of Consciousness is amongst my favorites. However, I think in light of the fact that you open the set with two brand new songs that maybe at least maybe half the audience doesn't know. Now, I don't think Dream Theater fan. I highly doubt there was a fair amount of new fans or people that were dragged there against their will, if you will. And there was no opening act. So I can't even say, well, those guys were blank fans because they were there to see the opening act. Like, you were there to see Dream Theater. Anybody who was there at that show was there to see Dream Theater. So I have a hard time believing that maybe the fans didn't know, the people in attendance didn't know the two new songs. But even with that, you're going to open your second set with two brand new songs, and then you're going to go into Vacant, which is, again, a good song, but an odd choice, very odd. And then right into Stream of Consciousness, which, again, is a great instrumental, but slow, dark, downtrodden. It sets a mood that just permeated the entire second. The second set was wholly like slow and depressing and dark. It was weird. I have to say it's a weird choice. It was an odd choice. Octavarium came in, saved the second set. It was wonderful. And then obviously the encore, if you're a Dream Theater fan, you've heard already. They played the Best of Times for the very first time in their career. It was great. But here's where I'm going to start my complaints. This is the place. And I feel bad criticizing this simply because it was a song that was dedicated to Mike Portnoy's father, who had passed. I think the year was 2020. I'm not 100% sure. But this is a criticism for the entire show. And this was the least annoying and the least egregious example of this. But my God, did Dream Theater ever, do they own stock in some sort of AI company? Because my God, their screen content throughout the entire show was awful and generic and AI as fuck. So bad. And I know that there was a whole controversy about the album art, and I'm not going to get into that because it's been done to death already. It's been talked about. Long story short, the artist that is credited for doing Parasomnia's artwork produced artwork for another band that looks almost exactly the same. Like beat for beat, stroke for stroke, whatever this person uses, he definitely rehashed for a more popular album, because I think the band that he produced the other album art for was not a very popular band. So I guess maybe the thought process was, well, they might have sold 100 copies or 1,000 copies or 10,000, whatever the low number is. It's going to pale in comparison to what Dream Theater sells, and he's probably right. But in that regard, he's probably right. But in the regard that he should do it, no, that's embarrassingly bad for both the artist and the band. And then to follow that up, and now I'm sure that controversy percolated after the screen content was already created for this tour. So it's hard to go back and retcon. But what I find weird is they use this new AI bullshit for songs like Octavarium, which already had pretty awesome artwork and screen content in and of itself. Go watch the score DVD from, what was that, 2005? 2006? And that artwork was more than sufficient and fantastic. And you're doing a 40th anniversary tour. So why are you doing a bunch of new artwork when it's supposed to be about nostalgia anyway? I understand doing new artwork and new screen content for the new songs, or for songs that didn't have screen content before, like the Best of Times. Now, here's the problem with the Best of Times. The Best of Times was basically, the screen caps were the occasional photograph of Mike Portnoy and his dad from the past, and a bunch of other stuff, right? Generic type of stuff. And it was so egregious and so bad that my oldest son said to me in a text, because he was sitting in a different place, I swear, he sent it to the family group chat for all of us, and he said, I swear if I die and one of you fuckers uses cheap AI to salute me, I'm going to haunt your ass. Because that's what it was. And it was so egregious that I'm almost willing to bet that whoever created this content uses the same exact editing software that I use, because they use the same transitions. I have an AI component to my software that I can access and can use if I want to, but I don't, because I'm an artist and I hate that shit. So, and I'll do a whole AI thing at some point. I'm sure of it. At some point, I'm going to see something that drives me crazy beyond this, because I don't have a lot of examples. I did take some videos. I mean, I've already talked about it online with Dream Theater fans, and a lot of Dream Theater fans agree with me. A lot of them, of course, take up for the band because they're sycophants, and that's what they do. And they cannot call a spade a spade. They'd rather just pretend that it's not real, or that well, they're doing their best, or well, what else, or they're on the cutting edge. And I know Dream Theater's been on the cutting edge before. Like, Jordan Rudess has created technology for music. I understand that. So I'm okay with it, but it's worth the criticism though. As much as I'm okay with it, I'm not saying that, like, you know, I'm sure it wasn't cheap. I'm sure it was expensive. It was just a poor move, and I hope they rectify it. I just hope that they work on it and do better for the next tour. Tweak it, do something. Don't use AI. Use actual artists. You're actual artists. Use actual artists. And if you are using actual artists and this is what they're producing for you, do better. Hire someone better. I'm always available. I can do so much better. Actually, I'm not even sure. I don't know if I can do the animation stuff better. I'm low-key talking out of my ass on that one. I can edit better possibly, but I don't know if I could create animation better. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration on my part. But the point remains, it was a major drawback for the show to me. It didn't take away from the songs. It didn't take away from the performances. I understand that it's window dressing when it's all said and done. But it's egregiously bad. Like, it was very obnoxious. Oh, that's interesting. I have another criticism. The strict 11 p.m. curfew at Radio City robbed us of a song, apparently. I'm reading an article right here that says Spirit Carries On was supposed to be, was written on the set list that was seen on the stage and passed out throughout the crew. But because of the strict 11 p.m. curfew, they did not play it because they couldn't pay the union fines. So apparently, I had heard a story, a fan told me a story in the crowd. They were at the Score show back in 2005, I think it was, which was the 20th anniversary of Dream Theater, and they did it with a full orchestra and the whole nine. And it was at Radio City, and apparently they went over by like 5 minutes or something, and the fine is astronomical, like per minute. Like, it's wild. So I understand that point. So I'm a little pissed at Radio City for that, not at Dream Theater. But what was my other that's my other criticism. So the reason why I wound up going to the bathroom during the second act, or the second set, right in the middle of Vacant, because I just knew it was going into Stream of Consciousness. I knew there was no way that they were going to have Vacant be the only representation from Train of Thought. And it makes sense for that song to go right into Stream of Consciousness. And, you know, it gives Labrie the break that he needs, and that's fine. I understand that. That's great. But the reason why I wound up using the bathroom at that point and not during the intermission is because I had to use the intermission to go and get merch. Okay? So, this is the merch I got. Whoop, I got a hoodie. Here's what bothers me. I walked into the venue and I got there early. I was there probably a half an hour early. And the line for merch was like insane, which is understandable. It's completely understandable. You really don't know how many more of these tours are left, if I'm being honest. You really don't know. I can't, I know they said that they're coming back and they're going to do the entire Parasomnia album, but I can't pretend that this is one of the last Dream Theater tours we're going to see. Especially with this lineup. There's no way James LaBrie can carry on for another 10 years. That's not a thing. So, and if it does, I can't imagine what that's going to sound like. I can't imagine what that looks like or sounds like. So, I treated this as if it was one of the last times I was going to see this band. So, I was going to load up on merch. But the line was insane. It was so insane that I checked throughout the first set. And I wasn't going to go online. I just wanted to go out and check, because if there was no one out there, if everybody was in their seats proper, I was just going to go out, buy my shit, and come right back in, right? Because the merch table was right outside the doors that I had to go into. But throughout the entire first set, that line never let up. What are we doing? We need to do better. We need to process things quicker, folks. Like, there were people who spent I think the bare minimum ticket for this show was $75, and if you add in the fees, that's over $100. I think bare minimum people were paying over $100 per ticket to see this show. And there was a fair amount of people that missed the majority of the first half of this show because they had to get merch. And then on top of that, they put a special edition t-shirt and I think it was 2 shirts actually, specifically made for Radio City Music Hall, and a poster. Those were sold out. I think they only made they didn't make a lot. They could not have made a lot of those. They should make enough for all the people there. Or at least 3/4, like 75% of the people at that show are ardent Dream Theater fans and would have bought one of those. Why would you only make such a finite amount? I understand you want to make things special, but at the same time, you're giving people incentives to miss the music, to miss the show, to miss the purpose why you're there. Are you there to buy a shirt? Jesus Christ, that's so weird to me. I don't understand that. But anyway, the second act comes along, and, during intermission, I ran out right away. And oddly enough, the line was not long at all. There was 4 people in front of the line. So I went and bought my merch, and that's what I did. And then I had to use the bathroom. I forewent my comfort for merch. That was my sacrifice. I wasn't going to sacrifice the music, though. And then I left on a song that wasn't particularly one of my favorites, which is Vacant. I don't dislike the song, but it wasn't one I was clamoring to hear. I ran right out, right to the bathroom, came right back, right in time for the first maybe minute and a half. I missed maybe a minute and a half of Stream of Consciousness. That was it. But that was obnoxious. And it's even more obnoxious now. And I don't know if this is real. I doubt it's Dream Theater sanctioned. But there's advertisements all over Facebook for these Radio City shirts now. So those people, I feel bad for those people who missed a great majority of this show so they could get their Radio City Music Hall shirt when you could have just purchased one online, even if it's not sanctioned by Dream Theater. I mean, it would suck to buy it online if it's not sanctioned by Dream Theater. I fully support you supporting the artist and not some scammers or some wannabes who are looking to make a quick buck off other people. But you also should not miss half the goddamn show to buy a t-shirt. That's just me. Now, to each his own. If you're okay with that, then that's on you. But I'm glad to report that now I've been talking for, 20, 25 minutes, and it was not about James LaBrie. This will probably be the last Dream Theater video I make for quite some time, because I've said all I need to say on this. So, what do you think? What were your comments? Were you at the Radio City show? Please drop it in the comments. If you saw this tour at any point, drop it in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts were about your show and where you saw them, because I'd find it interesting to see what changed on the set list and what your high points were and what your low points were. And then, if you were one of those people waiting online for the Radio City shirt, was it worth it? I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. It's a burning question. So let me know. Drop it in the comments. Also, please like and subscribe to the channel. And check out all my social media places. It's all over the screen right now. And then please help me out in my endeavor to do more of these videos by giving to my Patreon. $3 a month. That's it. It's $3. And at some point, I'm going to introduce t-shirts and stickers and other things. I'm going to start live streaming over there too. So there's going to be way more things popping up for your $3, and then, a possibility to buy some merch or some shit like that. Or maybe I'll add a second tier to where you get the merch or you get the swag. Okay. So until then, I want to thank you all for being here with me, as I so much enjoy being here with you. And until next time, we will talk to you real soon. About a week or two. That's kind of what I've been doing. Bye-bye.
It's a blast!